realize they need this. And we need to be the warriors and the fighters to help make this happen. So the 5 P's, and if you have your handout, it's in there. And remember, take notes if you can. It's important that you share this information. This also will be downloadable on our website. We want everything accessible to you to be able to accomplish what you need to accomplish out there. Be it working with small groups, or just talking to your family, or going to large groups and being involved as leadership, and so on. 5 P's are paper, perimeter, penmanship, particulars, and people. It sounds simple, right? Paper, 8.5 by 14, legal size only. Why? Because this is what was approved by the Secretary of State. This format, this size, these margins, specifically. So it's important to recognize that. If you need paper, we can help with that. If you need the petitions, we can help with that too. You just make sure that, again, you go to that website, sign up, and send us an email, and we'll work with you to find that solution. But the paper is really important. It has to be white, and it has to be printed in black and white, or a photocopy in like context, okay? So the print needs to not be any darker, can't be any lighter. It's got to look pretty much like what you have in your hands.
Can we just print what you are supplying us right here? Can we just copy this?
You can make photocopies at your big box store, or if you have a scanner at home that does legal size paper. Just the only, and we'll talk about that a little bit later when we talk about the particulars. But yes, you can do that. You can make a photocopy, or you can put it on a flash drive and print it from a flash drive at your big box store. If you have a printer that prints,
I have a work printer. I've got it.
yeah, then you should be okay with legal size. Not everybody has that option, because not all printers will print. It really depends. And for us to answer your questions on does mine print this or does mine print that, I don't know. But we can help you no matter what solution you need. We're here to help. That's what we're doing, is helping the people. Perimeter. So when you're going to print, only do one. Make a copy of one. Take a look at it. Make sure it's correct. If you're making a photocopy, you're going to know that when you put this in there, it's likely to come out okay. But what could happen is if your photocopy is adjusted wrong on the top of the photo machine, you might lose some space at the top. You don't know how that, if you're going to a big box store, how that box store, is their printer okay? Is it set up correctly? We don't know. So what we have to do is be diligent and smart about our approach, and just check it. Just do one copy, and then have a ruler. They have them there, generally speaking, and just measure. Make sure it's an inch or just slightly there above, because ours is slightly there above to give you a little bit of room from the top. Now the side margins are about a half an inch, and then the bottom has to be within a half an inch. But again, you're not going to be changing the size of the font or the layout or anything else. You're really going to just be printing that PDF or making a photocopy. So that's important to remember. And that's what I'm talking about here when it says making photocopies. Be sure the copies are aligned properly, because that's important. Yes, ma'am.
What about paperweight?
Sorry, paper weight.
20 pound, okay?
Yes, they didn't give us any stipulation as to the actual paperweight. Just use the standard for legal size, and no cardstock. It's stiff.
Yeah.
It's so like when you do your one photocopy or one print, make sure that it's not rubbing off tracks onto the document or smearing, things like this, because we don't. What we want to do is give the Secretary of State and the powers that be the least amount of opportunity to be able to foul the will of the people up. Okay, we want to make sure that we're diligent, especially with time and resources, because while this takes both. All right, yes, ma'am.
I just want to say something about the big box stores.
Right.
Also, our small business printers.
Well, I was going to say, we actually have a local small business printer, and there are other listings that are very useful in communities where you can go.
Only go to big box and you have.
Well, when I mean big, I should clarify that. Not necessarily, when I say big box store, it would mean a store that does printing that's going to facilitate 100 copies, 200 copies. You know, your friend's house or what have you, that if they have a printer, that would be great. Buy local, shop local, I agree with that. So let me just clarify that. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that. And if you want to go one step further, we could say, stay in your town, because any taxes you pay go to your local community. If they're going to take them, they might as well go to where you live. Penmanship. This is a biggie. Penmanship is huge. Now, people asked us why we didn't give them an exact sample, you know, with all the writing and everything. We do have an instruction sheet, and many of you picked them up. It talks about some of the details. What we suggest is that if you're signing the petition yourself, or if you are going to be a circulator, to be using a fine point pen, ballpoint pen. And we don't really speak about this on the website, but gel ink rubs smears, just in what we've seen in our experience. So using a fine tip ballpoint pen allows you to write a little smaller and neater. It helps. And again, it's just a suggestion.
Must it be black ink?
It could be black or blue.
Okay.
Don't use red.
Well, sometimes they require only black, so I just
In this
double check.
particular initiative, recall clearly, do not type. A lot of people nowadays are wanting to get fancy and type their names because it's a PDF, so they think, okay, I can do this, and then that way I only have to sign one place or what have you. This entire document needs to be done in what we call wet ink. That means by hand, old school. Now, people are asking me, why do you think that is, Erin? And I said, well, because if you have a fill-out form online where the people could actually go and fill out the document and put their information in and sign it tied to the Secretary of State, we would have a lot more successful recalls, and it'd be like a Beyonce concert, okay? Sold out at 12:01, you know, I mean, seriously. The people want it, but the powers, maybe they do or don't want it, but it just, maybe it'll go that way, but it seems to be that they want to make this, according to law, of course, as difficult as possible. So, important to remember, on the top of your petition, you're going to see a county. Does everybody see that? The county on your sheet? I would have put it up here, but then it's still too small for you to see, and then I would have done little excerpts, but that doesn't work either. The county is the top line above the signature boxes. That county is going to be, you know, you're at the grocery store, or you're at your local meeting, and you say, oh, okay, I live in Riverside. Do you have a sheet for me? And you say, yes, we do. We put Riverside at the top, and the person or persons who live in Riverside can sign that sheet. But if somebody comes up that's from San Diego, they're going to need their own sheet. Each county requires that an individual sign a petition for its respective county. Why is this? Because when we turn these petitions in, they will be turned in to their county registrar. The registrars will process these. And it's important that we can separate these by county as well. Yes, ma'am?
Does the person collecting the signatures need to be from that county?
No. There's a margin on the left-hand side where the Secretary of State goes through, and they annotate which are valid and which are not, which are accepted and which are not. So now, as we, yes, ma'am?
Yes, I see that on the county is blank.
You will need to write in
Right.
the particular county.
But you're saying that if it was
It is not, because you may be in San Diego. So you may be at a meeting in San Diego or with friends in San Diego and say, oh, guess what? So it's blank, so you can fill that in.
Okay.
That's a great question, thank you. So, as,
Can I do
oh,
this
yes, sir,
before?
sorry.
And what I do is I have different clipboards for different counties.
Right.
And I have it written so that you don't get the sheets mixed up.
Mhm.
You have each clipboard with the different counties, so you keep them separated,
Right.
and you ask the person more than once if that's the county they live in.
Right, so that is correct. So if you're going to a function where you know there are going to be multiple people attending from maybe multiple areas or bringing friends or something like that, you are going to need documents, say even in Northern California, you're going to want to make sure you have more than just 2 forms if there are 6 people there. Why? Because no matter what county you get signatures for or from, you can mail them into us, and we will give them to the individuals that will be submitting them to the voter registrars for that county, okay? So don't think just because you're from Riverside that if you get somebody that's from out of area that that's not a possibility. It is a possibility. So just make sure that you capture that person's information appropriately. Yes?
And if the signature person doesn't know what county they live in, there is a website, if you just Google,
Right.
what county do I live in? You just put in your address and it'll pop up and tell them
Right.
what county they're in.
So in many cases, a lot of the bigger clubs and groups likely will have a laptop where they're collecting signatures from if it's a closed meeting especially, and they will be checking, because people don't know, some of them don't know if they're actually registered to vote or can't remember. So they are working with people, some of them, to check that information. It just varies by group or by club, but the important thing is also to have registration forms with you, because if a person wants to be able to register to vote and to sign the petition, you want to make sure that that's an option for them.
Erin, can we get registration forms at the post office?
You can pick up, okay, so registration forms, unless you get them from the Secretary of State, which we've requested them, we have not received them yet. We have a page on our website where it's written down the name of our organization, our address, and our phone number. You take that with you to your county registrar's office, and you can get many, many copies for your county. That's a county, though.
Just go to the courthouse.
To the voter registrar's office.
So we need your name and information to get multiple?
Yes.
Otherwise, we can only get one if we walk in.
You may.
Just real quick, on the way here, pop into any post office. And you can pick
They
up
also
your
have
voter
them.
registration.
Right. Well, most people will want, if you're collecting for a big group or organization and you might be working with another volunteer organization, they may want to know that you have your own registered registration. Yeah, some are particular. Some are. Okay. It just depends.
Yeah, you're right, it does.
You have to, I guess the important thing is we have to be very aware of what we're doing and where we're doing it and who we're doing it with, and be respectful of the organizations we're involved in and work with them to be able to accomplish what it is that we'd like to accomplish according to what their rules are, really. That goes for private businesses and clubs and what have you. So let's go back to the penmanship. Very, very important. Were we all like 2, 3, 4, 5 years old once? Did we have crayons? Did we learn how to color within the lines? Yes. So we really need to be mindful of staying within the lines and encourage people to stay within the lines and write neatly and small and print. So on the printer name, you do just that. You put your first, middle, and last name, how you're registered to vote, and then you move over, and apparently this is the tough spot. People start scribbling their information and writing loosely and quickly. People are excited to recall Gavin Newsom. That is the reality. People are literally, I've heard from volunteers, and they're like, they just can't stand it. They start writing really fast, and I'm like, stop. You might go out of the lines. So encourage them. Okay, I'm going to walk through this with you. We want to make sure your signature counts. We want to make this signature count and recall Gavin Newsom. So I'm going to stop you after each section, if that's okay. And hopefully they're just so excited. They say, okay. And then they put their name, and then you say, go ahead and stop. So now put the street address, your numbers, and then the street name, and then stop. Let them do that, and then say, okay, I'm going to ask you to sign here on the dotted line, between the lines, in the lines, how you signed at the DMV or how you signed to register to vote. And they go, huh? I don't remember that. But the important part is they sign within the lines and they sign naturally, and that it does reflect in like what they have on file with the Secretary of State, and they don't go into the other box, okay? That's a hard one. And generally it's hard by the time you get to the third box is what I'm hearing.
Erin,
Yes.
just to be clear, okay, I know it seems like I'm asking the same
Yes.
question, but where your number is 1, 2, and 3, that's where they print, and they sign under where it says your signature.
Right, so on line 1, print your name. This is going by, this is in the format Secretary of State provides us to use. So this is why I like that, and it's very misleading people because they're used to signing the other way, as you see at the bottom of the form. So it's tricky. Maybe by design, I'm not sure. But nonetheless, we should be doing our job to help people understand the importance, let them take their time, and guide them to where they should be signing. That can be done by pointing a finger, just your communication skills are important. So yes, on the number 1 line, right next to that number 1 will be your full name, how you registered to vote, and then followed by the street numbers, then the street name, and then remember you asked them to stop. Now I'm going to ask you for your signature. So you go ahead and do the modality that I just spoke about, encouraging them to sign neatly how they did when they registered to vote. And then you explain to them, okay, let's stop. Okay? Now we're going to do your city and zip. And I mean, this sounds funny, but people are so excited. They're fired up, and they really, generally they're caught as they're going in and out of stores, or they're getting ready for another function. They're busy. They don't want to spend a lot of time, but they know it's important, so they want to do it. So let's just help them do it well. So by the time you go to line 2, I think it's important to mention that at this rate, the response is deteriorating a little bit. The signatures tend to get bigger, the writing tends to get better. Just be consistent with your communication, and line 3 is the really important one. What we've seen is maybe there's somebody who signs and they just go all out. Is it to ruin it? I don't know, but it's been a trend. So let's just continue to encourage them very diligently on line 3. One last note about penmanship. Staying in between the lines. That includes both margins on both sides. They need to stay between the lines. Especially the one where we usually see runoff is after the address, because sometimes the names of the streets are long. And the Secretary of State needs this margin to use. A great option would be, if you are doing, if you're the circulator, to put little stickies in there. Little arrow stickies. Or something there to encourage them to not stay in that space, and that might help. So that will keep them from going over. Even still, if they write over that, that's a problem because you need all of their information. So please be diligent. Now, as we move to the next area, I'm going to hold off on questions for just a minute so we can get through this section. It's important that you may not be circulating this, but you're considered, the circulator. So, and you need to do the declaration. So that would include your printed full name, and by the way, the words are underneath it, what it needs to contain. But one of the issues is we're seeing since the Davis recall in 2003 is many people aren't reading, paying attention as they once were. They're busy. They're really busy. And it's a social media instant lifestyle we're living now today. Things have changed quite drastically. But nonetheless, if you forget what that is, you can read it while you're right there. You have the instructions, and it says print full name of person who gathered the signatures. If it's just one person, that's you. And then you move through, and it says you certify that you're 18 years old or older, And then you certify that your residence address, this is not where you're registered to vote. Your residence address, including street and number, is, and write neatly and small. The line underneath that is for people who live in rural areas, where there are indicators where they live and they may not actually have a street address. And yes, there are many of those communities here in rural California. There are. And it's clear right there what that means. If no street address or number exists, a designation of my residence is adequate to readily ascertain location. The registration office is already going to have that. Serious, but it's important. They won't disqualify your signature based off of that if you live in a rural community, but you do have to stipulate. Next is the signature on this section of the petition form were obtained between month, day, year, month, day, year. Well, write neatly. This is where the particulars come in. You know, we went through everything. We looked at, do you need to write out the dates? Do you need to put them by number? Everything we could find was encouraging month, day, year, in that format, right there. Now, if they write Feb 2, 20, would the Secretary of State kick it? No. But I think it's just important to have your communication, your messaging clear, especially if you're training people or encouraging other people to do the circulator work. And then also, we'll go down to the next line, executed on the date, and then the city or community where you signed. So that may differ from the county you're collecting for, if you're the circulator, okay? It could vary, but it's important you say where. Not that they would know, but it's just important you do right by what you're doing and be accurate. And then the circulator signature, that would be a lone person who's signing this on their own at home, or that would be you if you're collecting signatures. And then the date.
The executed date is the date the return was in?
Okay, so the dates, if we want to go on this in particular, it says the signatures of this section, if we're going right here, not the bottom line, but the top dates, the first set of the petition forms were obtained between month, day, and year. So for example, if you were collecting this today, okay, and you only got one signature, you would want to make sure that you put that in. And then if you collected the rest of the signatures the following week, then you would put that date, that end date. And then you would certify it when it is complete. Yes?
I just want to mention that this is important, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the circulator should not sign and then make copies.
Okay. Like original, the entire document needs to be done in original ink every single time. And this is one of the issues is that people are saying, but there's only 3 signatures. My hand's gonna hurt. No, I'm serious. It is tedious. It is a lot of work. It is effort. But the issue is that anytime the laws are really, really particular. And anytime you have the signature box, you have to have certain information above it. And there's a lot of it. And then to do this two-sided, there would be a lot of problems. We would have a lot of issues and kicked petitions. So we decided to do it on one page, and really there was we could have maybe fit one more in, but we wanted to make sure and leave plenty of room for printing issues and margins. And again, the success of this petition being approved is the most important thing. We want to, again, reduce that margin of error. Yes, sir?
I'd like to understand that you can put a maximum of 3 people per form.
Yes, sir. You cannot modify that form.
All right. Now, resident address, it only says city and zip, so that's all that's required?
Yes, correct. Well, no. Actually, please, if you look at the top line 1, it says print your name. So if you look at the top box, it says number 1, print your name.
That goes inside the box, though.
Yes, correct. And then you move over towards the right, it says residence address only. That's gonna be your numbers and your street.
Okay, so
Below
there's nothing
it-
there for the signature, street address, then the city, then the city.
Right, so this is where it gets confusing
It is
because
confusing.
most
Very-
people, look at the bottom, most people when they fill out a form have the descriptions on those forms at the bottom. It's programming. Okay, that's what I call in my communication programming. They have us programmed. This is programmed, that box is programmed to fail.
Yes, it is. Right, yeah.
In my opinion, just as a lay person. So what we want to do is help them be a success, and that's why we're encouraging you, if you're circulating, to have them stop between, so that way they don't move on and put the wrong information, or write it above, or write it below, or right outside the line.
Address only. At least
Because,
that's
and that's because it is not your registered to vote address. Those are the words that the Secretary of State uses.
But that's gonna include the street number and all that.
The street number and name.
Yeah, street number, name of street,
Mm-hmm.
then city.
Downloadable with color. All those demarcations on the side are red online. We printed it in black and white. That's where this comes in handy. It says 1, 2, 3, all the way through 17. You can have this and make copies. You can also download it online. But this is where it tells you, on number 3 here, it says, print your residential street address. No P.O. boxes allowed. 123 Main Street. And then number 5 and 6 on there are print your residential city, i.e. Hollywood. Print your residential zip code, i.e. 92008. Let me hold for questions real quick, okay? So it's imperative that we encourage people to, 1, write inside the lines, 2, print clearly, and 3, make sure they put the right information in the right place.
I think you ought to just put a big one up there, filled out with a fake person, with the street address.
Here's your
all
example.
of
Different
it,
people-
because it's-
Sir, there are reasons why, okay, do you have this form?
I don't have that one that's got, is it one that's filled out?
No, we did not provide a filled out form, and the reason why is because we don't want people duplicating it. There are some forms online where people have signed across the lines, and that is a very bad misrepresentation of what's acceptable.
Okay, I don't have that.
A
Yes.
sample in your booth, in your box, in your table, at your table, whatever.
Mhm.
Just a sample of that right there.
If you find that available to you to be a good tool, that's great. We as the organizers want to make sure that nothing bad or misinformation, disinformation gets out. It's all in writing. You can follow the guidelines. If you want to put a sample at your booth and what have you, but likely they're going to be wanting to sign. And getting them to stop to then look at a sample is going to be, you want to maximize your time and be successful as well. Okay, we can show them a sample, but yes. Yes, sir.
Okay, my question is, are they allowed to abbreviate?
No,
Okay.
they should write out the full address.
Street,
Street number, street
Boulevard,
name.
Avenue.
Yes, correct.
Now,
And-
what I do is I make up a sheet that says, do not abbreviate anything. This way, they don't make a mistake. Everything has to be spelled out.
Yes, it's important to just have people be accurate and encourage accuracy.
Along with the city, because like San Juan Capistrano is so long.
Yes, so like I suggested before, using a fine point pen is helpful as opposed to gel, which bleeds and is awfully wide width because of the liquid. Not that you can't use them, but it's just, in good practice, it might be useful to have the fine pen. Yes, ma'am?
So are you saying that they would not accept it if somebody agrees to get a phone card?
There could be an opportunity, because if you think about it, if it runs in together, if they're putting information together, if it's unclear what it is they're writing, a lot of times when they write, Boulevard, that might be accepted, but the thing is that really they should be writing it out. It says full address. So we want to allow for the least amount of opportunity for these sorts of things to get kicked, and they will kick them. Yes, ma'am.
Under the petition signing made easy, number 9 line, doesn't tell you what it's supposed to be. 8 is your address, but 9, I'm guessing, is the city. Am I correct?
So, number 9, if you look down the page, at the bottom of the page, it's about a quarter of the way, or a third of the way down, 7, 8, 9, it says right in the,
Fill this out if there's no street number.
only fill this out if there's no street number for the address in number 8 above. This is likely for rural Americans who live in California.
So that means that you put your street address and number, and then if that doesn't apply to you,
You skip it.
leave it out. You
Yes,
don't
correct.
put anything, but there's no place to put your city or your zip code.
So on number 8,
Yes.
number 8 is the full address.
Oh my gosh.
Right, neatly, and
There's no
efficiently.
way.
Well, so you could do it twice. You could do 2 little levels if you needed to. They don't stipulate for that. The one that they want the information there. The one they're really going to scrutinize, again, are the ones that fall in the boxes. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, my recommendation, because they're so picky about going box into box, maybe get a little template that you lay so that if
Well,
they
what
go
we-
beyond that.
What we
it
would
doesn't
like
go
to be
in.
careful of doing is covering up any part of the petition that has words on it. Okay? The people have the right to be able to read the entire document. So if you cover up, say, that margin under there and you have a sticky and they can see there's nothing in there, that's one thing. But if you're covering up the actual text of the document, that we really need to make sure that people have the opportunity to review the entire document as is. It's really important for scrutiny. You never know who's walking up on your booth. They may not be really happy about the fact that you're collecting. So let's go ahead and move on. Does anybody have questions about the date format? Okay. The voter the circulator, or if you're doing this yourself, you have to sign it yourself. There's no room. Yes?
Yeah, when it comes to mailing the petitions, are you not allowed the footage when it comes to mailing?
I've went through the laws and I talked to attorney, and this used to be something that was the case. We do not see anything in election law that says that's the case. I put in calls to the Secretary of State's office, and I called them again today, and they have not returned my call. And so I will continue to follow up until we get that answer. We need that answer. The long and the short of it is, this is not the same type of paper they used to once use for petitions. So if you were to fold this lightly and put it in an envelope and mail it, I would prefer you put it in a manila envelope by bulk with a whole bunch of them to mail them to us for efficiency purposes and paper waste issues and mailing cost issues. But if you were to need to mail this in a regular standard envelope, just don't crease it to the pieces. Okay, just fold it nicely, and then there are going to be a lot of these. We already have a lot of these. We lay them flat before we go through them. By the time the end of the day comes, they'll be flat. Just don't crease them. Yes. No. Pardon me? What would probably be cheaper is a vanilla envelope. The dollar store has been my best friend. We're now buying in bulk. But the dollar store was my best friend on the first start of this 8 months ago. And at that time, that was highly efficient and cost effective. Now, what we're talking about are different people with different needs for different volumes here, because some people will be collecting 500, 1,000, 2,000, and very quickly on the weekends in bulk. Some of them will be collecting 5 or 6 from their family, or encouraging other people to be doing it, or training or guiding or what have you. So the needs are different, the price points are different. You can also go to your local shop, talk to them about what prices they offer, and what have you. Yes, ma'am?
Sorry, where do you find the address to send these to and the website, because they're not on here?
Yes, they won't be on there. So I have business cards. I will put them up here. I was trying to get the AV set up. I do apologize. The website is also on our large sign up here, and we have that on the website. If you don't have the website, see me after. I will give you a business card, and that will have the address as well.
Thank you.
Okay? Yes, sir?
Two questions, Dave. Are we gonna get some kind of, like, on September 30th, some kind of ballpark running total?
Yes.
Okay, well, we're gonna get to that too. I know there's so much, but let's get to the people, because what matters here, I'll talk.
I want to talk about the envelopes real quick. If you're sending them out in bulk, this is kind of important with the post office. If the government's involved, you want to mark it first class on both sides, especially if you're cutting it close. Because that means the government has to deliver it. If you send it in a big envelope and don't mark it, underannounced third, higher is fourth by default. So a little more postage for the movement, mark it first class on both sides. It's all postal regulation.
There's another thing, it's called tracking.
Right.
Tracking is our friend. Since starting this movement, there's been a lot of pieces that were lost in the mail. We need to make sure we keep track of them in the mail. Tracking helps. It really does. It's important. But let's get back to the people, and then we'll get back to those other details which are really important, especially for leaders. People, the declaration section must be signed by the person gathering the signatures. That is mandatory. In ink, in original handwriting. If this is your petition, your information is handwritten here. If you are a volunteer or circulator, your information is handwritten here. You could be both. If it's your first petition, you could be both. But that's really, really important. And again, I've gotten some of these that are printed. No printing. So what we're going to do is talk now a little bit about the details of the movement, where we're at, give you a status update. Today we have over 12,000 raw downloads, individual downloads, most of which people I'm hearing are not one and two page printers. They are people who are anywhere from 1 to 500. So they're taking this document, they're making copies and duplicates. That's huge. That is huge when you look at the numbers. But we can't let that number that's out there of almost 3 million possible petitions being circulated right now, let us be lazy. We need to go hard, not stop, and we need to make sure all of those petitions that are out there get returned. And that's how you're going to be able to play a role. We have currently a growing list of drop-off locations, pick-up locations for new petitions. Not everybody can afford to do it. We are here, we're raising money, we are fundraising to help support the effort. And we can, in large bulk, order you and have you drop ship petitions. Especially in rural counties, people have been doing this as well. And so we have a lot of downloads. We have a ton of traffic on our website. We're at 97 percentile. It's huge, the traffic we're getting on our site. That's great news. But we need to keep sharing information. We need to keep sharing the website, sharing that this is, and I've been asked to say this. Our website is not an official website of the recall of Gavin Newsom. We have an approved Secretary of State petition circulating, okay? It's approved. So people are saying, but do you have an approved petition? That's important to communicate. So back to the numbers. We have a lot of people who have downloaded these. They're organizing. They need drop-off locations. They need pick-up locations. We're adding people daily. We have probably about 18 people or locations that we're vetting. We can't just give the people's petitions to just anyone.
Right.
Petitions, this is the most important part. If you take anything home tonight, and it's on our website and it's on most of our mailings, the information that goes on this petition is confidential. You can't take photos of it. You can't make copies of it. You can't share it with anyone. So if you're meeting with your husband or your wife or whoever it is, and that's the same information, you have a friend over, a neighbor over, the fact that they wrote their name on that petition is confidential. It's important we be real, in a hostile state that we are, prudent. okay? Those individuals that might be circulating, they hold those petitions and then submit them. At that time, they'll be submitting them to a person that's been vetted. They've signed a non-disclosure agreement. You're not going to be handing that to somebody that could just hand this out, okay? Or it's somebody who's agreed to be a designated representative of the proponents, okay? And this is our responsibility as proponents, is to make sure that you're not handing over important information, an important petition to somebody that might discard it. We need to make sure that the integrity of the system, the integrity of the whole process is guarded as best we can. It's responsibility. So if you know of people who want to be a drop-off location or a pickup location, please email us. We need their name, their address, and their phone number, because we have to contact them and go through a process. Okay? So please follow up on that. That list is growing. It's on our website.
I noticed that you had 3 this morning, now you got like 9 or 10.
I think it's bigger than that now. I think we're on version
your
3, and
drop-off?
version 4 is going to be huge.
It's getting long.
So the good news is the big clubs are now really jumping on board. So we have Riverside, we have Contra Costa, we have, I mean, the list is growing. And so we know we have had support within different clubs, but now they're finally stepping both feet in. That's great. So watch for an exponential growth. And that list that's on our website is a trusted list. I suggest you be real cautious, because our website is paid for by the RAN Action Committee. We call Gavin Newsom. We are on the FPP website. We're on there. We have an approved committee. If you receive drop-off lists from somewhere else that doesn't have an approved petition, I would say it's not trustworthy. Go to our website, our committee paid for by website that has a downloadable document of our committee approved responsible individuals that you can trust to work with. And there are, in any cases, phone numbers you can call on there to talk to these individuals. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question, because I know, like, a few weeks back or whatever, I did do something online.
Yes, you did.
Okay, so is that a ballot? Is my signature?
Oh, wait, you signed a petition online? Okay, no, I was thinking of something else. Any petition, that's a very good question. Any petition that you sign online, I'll just say there's a .org out there, a big one that's sending a recall petition around. I believe it's defeatist, I can't say that. It's also helping us in some ways, because it's firing people up. Online petitions, California statewide official. This petition in wet ink, original copy, has to be turned in along with all its sisters and brothers at the same time to the local county registrar's office in order for it to count. It's a huge process. So just to answer fully, so when you are maybe encountered with that. Yes, and what we like to say is, actually, no, and you can explain to them why. Go to this website. This is the approved, Secretary of State approved print and sign. So if you